The time has come for the Cresselia PvP IV deep dive, looking at Cresselia's most important stat checks and associated PvP IVs in both the Great League and the Ultra League in Pokemon Go, along with insights from the Cresselia Master himself, LurganRocket. I'll also be giving you an idea of how many Cresselia trades you'll likely have to do to get the level of bulk that we're going to be talking about in this video. Now, if you haven't seen a PvP IV deep dive already, or if at any point in this video you're kind of confused what I'm talking about, I'll link up above and in the description to my PvP IVs simplified video. Basically, get your feet wet before you dive off into the deep end here. And if you want to check out any of this information in a text-based format, I'll link down below to my article on GamePress, the Cresselia PvP IV deep dive, which has all the information that I'll be talking about in this video, along with hyperlinks to the PvP IV tables that I'll be showcasing throughout this video. Yeah, all there in the article, so check it out. Without further ado, let's talk about Cresselia. Starting out with Cresselia's move pool, this article is going to be exclusively looking at Psycho Cut Cresselia with the charge moves of Moonblast, Future Sight, and Grass Knot. I'd say in the Great League, you pretty much always want to have Grass Knot on Cresselia, and unless you're trading for a event Cresselia, you may have to Elite TM the Grass Knot onto Cresselia, so I'd say maybe hold on to your charge TMs until you get one of the better Cresselia IVs. When it comes to the Ultra League Cresselia, it's pretty flexible. I think you can effectively use the Future Sight Moonblast combo in the Ultra League, so a little bit less pressure to get out those elite charge TMs there. But yeah, the other attacks that Cresselia has won't be considered in this deep dive. If Confusion Cresselia ever becomes relevant, I'm pretty confident that it'll be focused on bulk still then too. So yeah, without further ado, let's talk about the PvP IVs. When it comes to Cresselia in the Great League, it's pretty much all about the bulk. And when it comes to bulk, there's like a okay safe range, and then there's like a hyper premium kind of range. I'd say if you're a GBL player, you're not aspiring for, factions, frontier, or like the Play Pokemon Syndicate, then if you're in this, general good range, then you're probably going to be good. So here I have about 205 different IV spreads using 159.5 defense as a minimum with 160 HP. With this level of defense, you could expect to overcome Shadow Dragonair in the 2-2 shield scenario, Bastiodon in the 2-1 shield advantage scenario, the Galarian Stunfisk in the 1-1 shield scenario, Shadow Venusaur in the 0-1 shield scenario using just Future Sight, and then we also have potential for the Lickitung 0-0 shield scenario with a single fast move lead, the Pelipper 1-1 shield scenario, the Altaria 1-1 shield scenario with either charge move, and then the 2-2 against the Altaria with the Moonblast. Also can get the Gligar 2-2 shield scenario and the Shadow Zapdos 0-0 shield scenario. And there is also potential for the Frostlass 1-1 shield scenario against a 122 plus attack weighted Frostlass, which are generally the attack range you're looking at for a charge move priority focused Frostlass. If you want to know more about Frostlass, I'll link up above in the description to the Frostlass PvP IV deep dive. For Frostlass though, specifically for that, you might need 161 on the HP stat. But yeah, I'd say these 205 IV spreads are perfectly a-okay for GBL purposes, or a good cutoff point if you're tired of trading for Cresselia all the time. To get one of these to have like a reasonable probability, like a 50 to 75% probability of getting one of these 205 IV spreads, you're probably going to be looking at about 11 to 22 trades to get one of them. So it's like a lot, but kind of a more grounded amount, right? When it comes to the more hyper premium IV spreads, where we're looking at 160.88 defense with 161 HP, well, now you're looking at like 38 to 76 good friend trades to get a Cresselia with that more premium level of bulk. If you want a tiebreaker for the low end of the spectrum here, I'd probably favor 161 HP over the higher defense iterations, just because you would get that consistency against the Frostlass there and probably several other matchups. Every little bit of HP helps out a lot, especially in safe swap and counter swap scenarios. But then after that, getting bigger defense is definitely a huge priority for the Altaria. If you're not familiar, I did bring a Cresselia to the 2023 Peoria Regional Tournament, and it didn't go so hot for me. My opponent did get the Altaria Atk Breakpoint on my Cresselia. I knew with my Cresselia's defense stat, I was kind of risking it, but here's the basic outcome of the battle. Me trying to get to that Moonblast, me not getting the Moonblast. Mostly because of that attack breakpoint. So to that end, if you are looking at bringing Cresselia to something more high-end, like a Play Pokemon tournament, well then you really do want to be trading up for the more premium IVs here, using that 160.88 defense and 161 on the HP. With this higher level of bulk, you can now manage Scrafty in the 1-0 shield situation, Charge-a-Bug in the 0-0 shield situation if you get a single fast move lead. So like you safe swap in your Cresselia, they counter swap in the Charge-a-Bug, and with this higher level of bulk, you can now reasonably take it out more consistently with the Future Sight and possibly maybe with the Moonblast, depending on the Charge-a-Bug IVs. This level of bulk will also help you overcome a Ice Beam Play Rough Azumarill in the 1-2 shield scenario, and has some interesting implications for the Shadow Victory Bell 0-1 shield situation. Now, if you do have a bit higher defense, like you're pumping above 161 defense there, then you could maybe possibly overcome Spark Lantern in the 2-2 shield situation. And then when it comes to higher attack weighted Altaria, such as the Trevenant Slaying Altaria from my Altaria PvP IV deep dive, link above and in the description. The Trev Slayer is also a bit of the Crest Slayer too, and having above 161 defense will help fortify you even more against those high attack weighted Altaria, so you don't end up looking like me on stream, missing the double Moonblast play and losing it all, right? Oh yeah, and the higher bulk also helps out against the Annihilate matchup. If you remember from my Annihilate PvP IV deep dive, having that slight attack weight helps out for Annihilate in the 1-2 and 2-2 shield scenarios against Cresselia. Obviously, having higher defense could take that victory away from the Annihilate. Of course, getting one of these hyper premium Cresselia can be a pretty difficult task. It'd take you about 38 to 76 good friend trades with the raid Cresselia. If you are trading for the research Cresselias, level 15, that does expand by about like 10 trades. I don't know what the number is, but it take like 31 to 63 trades with the research ones. I'm not saying that you have to exclusively trade good friends to get this Cresselia, but your probability of getting one drops significantly when you go up to great friend, plummets almost to the bottom with the ultra friend, and it just is not going to happen with best friends. So if you are looking at getting that super high level of Cresselia, until Pokemon Go adds like IV manipulating items into the game to help facilitate the competitive scene a little bit better, which seems to be like their due diligence, especially since people have maps and scanners to capture these non-raid Pokemon with the perfect IVs that they're looking for. Until that happens, you're going to be doing a lot of trades. And if you think the pro players aren't trading out the wazoo to get Cresselia, well, let me give you some insight from the LurganRocket. If you're not familiar with LurganRocket already, he got first place at Liverpool in 2022 using Cresselia, got second place at Bochum in 2023, got fourth place at Worlds in 2022, also with Cresselia, fourth place at Liverpool in 2024, and he is the only player to beat both of the world champions at the World Championship in their winning years. If you want to know why Dancing Rob and It's Axon had to climb up from the loser's bracket, well, it's this guy's fault, right? He's also a fellow PvP IV enthusiast, so I've been told. But yeah, he definitely 100% agrees that Cresselia is all about the bulk. If you want to know how much the bulk matters, his original Cresselia, nicknamed The Fist, which got him first place at Liverpool in 2022, and I believe he brought it to Worlds in 2022 as well. It is the rank 1 Ultra Friend trade Cresselia, the 3-11-13, clocking in with 160.7 defense and 163 HP. This Cresselia is probably better than any Cresselia you will reasonably ever see in your life, right? But it does only have 160.7 defense. That ain't no 160.88 defense, right? And despite this Cresselia being one of the best Cresselia in existence, he's still been trading up to try to get even better bulk because he recognizes that people are looking at that defense stat. That matchup against Altaria might not be so safe with the future sight unless you got a bigger defense stat. A later Cresselia that LurganRocket has built has been the 1-8-10, which is nearly identical stat-wise to the Fist, but it does have that 0.18 higher defense, hitting that coveted consistency marker of 160.88 defense. And if you think that's enough for Lurgan, you are sorely mistaken. That guy is still trading out there. As far as Cresselia it's caught, he shared that with me. It's been over 100, so I'd have to imagine that he's had nearly 100 Cresselia trades trying to get an even higher, even more premium level of bulk on a Cresselia, because when it comes to those high-end matchups, that supreme competition, especially when we're in like a Charjabug, Lickitung meta, where Altaria likes to show up every once in a while, right? Having every little bit of bulk goes a very long way for the Cresselia there. And yeah, LurganRocket realizes that he can't be no slouch. He can't rest on his laurels with 160.88 defense. He is going even further beyond. So hopefully with Cresselia coming back in raids, he'll be able to get those trades in and get an even better Cresselia. Now, don't let all this high-end, super supreme bulk talk discourage you from ever using a Cresselia when it does come to the GBL situation, right? Just having that good level of bulk that I talked about earlier in the video will, for the most part, be a-okay. But if you do want to push Cresselia even further beyond, then you really do want to be looking at that premium level of bulk on the IVs there. Before we move on to the Ultra League, I did want to highlight a couple of attack breakpoints for the Great League Cresselia. You know, shoot for the moon, land among the stars type situation here. Having greater than 93.2 attack may enable the 1-1 shield scenario against Lickitung when you're up one fast move for the Moonblast Cresselia. And it may also help out in the Deoxys defense form 0-0 shield scenario by getting a Grass Knot breakpoint. Now when it comes to the Deoxys defense form situation, if they are a more premium level of bulk on the Deoxys, or if they have a premium level of attack, like the Mirror Slayer Deoxys defense form, link up above in the description to the Deoxys PvP IV deep dive, then things might be problematic for Cresselia, but if you got that attack stat, then you know that you could have an out in that scenario. And if you do happen to have greater than a 94.78 attack weight on your Cresselia, you could get a cheeky 2-2 win versus Skeledirge with Future Sight, and you may maintain the Shadow Wishcash 1-2 shield scenario after an early Scald debuff. I think this attack weight is particularly relevant for like frontier faction type battlers, because in those formats you know what 6 Pokemon your opponent's bringing, and you can like change your Pokemon out for different IV and moveset Pokemon before you battle, right? So if you're looking at the opponent's team, and there's nothing you really need that premium level of bulk for, but they do got that Skeledirge, and or they do got that Shadow Wishcash, well, with that attack weight, you could be getting a win condition that they're not prepared for. So just an interesting thing to keep in the back of your mind when you're trading for Cresselia and getting a lot of ones that don't hit the level of bulk that we'd like to have, right? So yeah, don't toss them all. Make sure to check them. Gotta check them all. Gotta check them all. All right, Ultra League. Then finally, we have the Ultra League Cresselia. And wouldn't you guess it, it is focused on bulk. Looking at a 207 defense stat as a minimum and a 208 HP stat. And compared to the Great League, to get this level of quote-unquote premium bulk, it'll take you about 14 to 28 good friend trades for that 50 to 75% probability. So, you know, as you're gunning for the good Great League stuff, you'll probably end up getting some of this good Ultra League stuff along the way. Now, when it comes to pushing this bulk even further beyond, if you do have an even higher defense stat, you could get a defense breakpoint against the Dragon Breath Giratina altered form, which could potentiate the 1-2 shield scenario with the Moonblast and maybe enable the 1-1 shield scenario with the Future Sight. However, this defense stat might be a little bit unchaseable against a raid-weighted Giratina altered form. And I can't remember if I did a Giratina altered form deep dive yet or not, but my recommended Giratina altered form with the Dragon Breath is like, what is it, like the 14-11-11, and if you trade, you know, that same sort of attack weight because of all these cool attack breakpoints, including but not limited to Cresselia, of course. I think Swampert was a big target there, among other things. Anyways, You might not get this defense breakpoint, so when it comes to a tiebreaker between various Cresselia that you have to work with, having Mondo crazy high defense might not exactly be the way. If you do have slightly higher HP, like 209 HP, then you would have even more consistency against the Virizion in the 1-2 shield scenario, and that's considering the attack-weighted Virizion from my Virizion PvP IV Deep Dive. I'll link above and a description to that. I think I forgot to mention it earlier on, but yeah, the 207 defense with the 208 HP is based on the Greninja matchup against my recommended Greninja from the Greninja PvP IV Deep Dive. Link up above in the description to that too. I think Greninja is still pretty popular in the Ultra League, so yeah, making sure that you can manage that guy a little bit better with this bit better level of bulk could be a bit better, right? Now, unlike in the Great League, Cresselia does have some low-hanging fruit for attack breakpoints that are pretty interesting, the lowest of which is going to be 119.37 attack for the Ampharos 1-1 and 2-2 shield scenarios, and the Alolan Sandslash 1-0 shield scenario if you're using the Future Sight. And yeah, you can see here that there are Cresselia that meet this level of bulk that do hit those attack breakpoints, that can even get the 209 HP for the Virizion. So in a sense, you could consider these to be slightly better. And if you do have that higher attack weight, you could possibly get the Gyarados 1-1 shield scenario as well. Historically, Gyarados likes to have a bit of a higher defense weight, so might not happen, but if you do got the higher attack weighted Cresselia here, something to keep in the back of your mind. Also including the Charizard 2-1 shield scenario with the Moonblast and the 2-2 shield scenario with the Future Sight. If Charizard, the not Shadow version, is thrifting a little bit on its bulk, you could possibly pick up those matchups as well. Now, there are even further beyond attack breakpoints. Their utility is a little bit questionable. Like, you got the Toxicroak 0-1 shield scenario, the Pidgeot 1-1 shield scenario with the Future Sight, and the Greedent 2-1 shield scenario. You will have to sacrifice some bulk. And I guess if there is like a bare minimum to keep in the back of your mind, I'd say having 204.16 on the defense with maintaining that higher level of HP could be good, because with that benchmark, you can maintain the Best Buddy Umbreon 0-0 shield scenario. This defense can also help you out against Venusaur and Poison Jab, Alolan Muck in the 2-1 shield scenario as well. So if you want to push for higher attack weights, or maybe you don't have this level of bulk Cresselia and you really don't want to trade to try to get an even bulkier Cresselia, then yeah, the 204.16 defense is a good minimum to keep in the back of your mind. So that's about all I got to say about Cresselia right now. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. We do have that Giratina origin form coming out to the Great League soon. Maybe it'd be good to know what IVs we're looking for there. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a shout out to these patron supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. If you do have a 93.2 or greater attack stat, that could enable the 1-1 shield scenario against the Lickitung when you're up one fast move for the Moonblast Cresselia.